I started this account over 7 years ago, have a playtime of around 5,600 hours, and I'm still only level 19 combat. What have I been doing this whole time? In this video, I plan to answer that question, as well as highlight the account's milestones, dive into its creation, and last but not least, outline what the future holds for this account. If you've watched any of my videos before, you're probably sick of hearing this by now, but if you're new here, here's a quick introduction to my account, the Chop Chop. Similar to a skiller, Chop Chop also has one in every combat stat, with the only difference being I've also leveled hit points, meaning that despite being such a low level, this account has more health than your average 80 combat player. This resulted in me being able to attempt many different challenges in both the wilderness and the rest of the game. I've tackled combat achievements, grinded bosses, gone raiding, and even completed master clues, all despite the obvious restrictions. I love playing this account, and I hope this video helps to explain what I do on it and how. As you're watching, and depending on the topic, I'll include the thumbnail and video title of the most relevant video I've made should you want any further context. And if you want to watch all of them after this, you can find them in a playlist on my channel. With all of that out the way, we start with the account's creation back in 2018. I was in the process of maxing my main when I felt the urge to do some extra clicking on the side. Not wanting to have to spend bonds, I created a free-to-play account that did nothing but chop trees. From the beginning, I knew I didn't want this account to just be a second main, but I also wasn't interested in keeping it a level 3 skiller. Potential options were a prayer pure or a 10 HP account, but both of these were still fairly common even 7 years ago, and I was after something a bit more unique. I decided I was going to train hit points and become a hit points only account. Without much planning, I started putting every genie lamp I would receive into the skill, with the initial goal of getting at least level 75. I began looking into all the possible ways I could level hit points further without training any of my other combat stats. This involved completing achievement diaries, quests, and a trip to the Varrock Museum. So after making the swap to a members world, I went and completed the possible easy achievement diaries as well as the Witch's House quest, bumping me to a comfortable 38 hit points. Having 92 woodcutting by chopping nothing but willow trees in free-to-play, I was more than ready for a change. I started chopping Solarset mushrooms to acquire fossils that can be traded for experience lamps in the basement of Varrock Museum. I recall that even in the early days of this account, I was getting to explore aspects of the game I'd never seen before during my time playing. For example, hitting a snake on the head with a warhammer, picking it up, then throwing it at a tar monster to stun it. Also, I could safely chop some mushrooms without being killed. I really love finding obscure mechanics in the game that can be used in one way or another to accomplish a goal, and this has been a major theme of this account the entire time I've been playing. After completing all the displays and bumping my hit points up to level 53, the only available method to gain consistent and repeatable XP was to now clean rocks in Varrock Museum for 2000 XP an hour, done by searching for the 500 XP lamps. Both Soul Wars and Pest Control would be much faster, but have a 40 combat restriction, so this account will never be able to gain access to them. Over the years, I've been playing this account on and off, and to put that in perspective, I got level 68 hit points in September 2019, 72 in November 2020, and then finally, after a pretty long break, 75 in April of 2024. So that's around 5 years for 7 levels. I definitely took my time. I set the goal of 75 hit points as it gave me the ability to wear the Zenyte jewelry, which included the Ring of Suffering, effectively an infinite ring of recoil that would be very useful for what I had planned. Taking a look at the rest of Chop Chop's stats when I got 75 hit points a year and a half ago, I'll admit they were looking pretty weak, but the main focus had always been the hit points, and everything else was secondary. Going forward, I was able to AFK other skills and work on progressing the rest of the account, and as you'll see later, these stats look a lot better now. During the long time spent training hit points, I found myself pondering the potential for this account and what I could do with it. And in 2022, my favourite item was added to the game. Poison Dynamite opened up so many opportunities for Chop Chop as it allowed me to deal damage without gaining combat experience, but still receiving credit for a kill. It works by rolling accuracy for a hit the same way a normal attack would, using your equipped gear's stats and the range or melee level of your character. The damage is determined based on your firemaking level, which is the reason why I got 90 very early on. On a successful hit, the Dynamite also had a 25% chance to apply poison to an enemy, which could deal a large amount of damage over time. This without a doubt makes it a cornerstone for the account, creating many opportunities with just this one item. The intention with Poison Dynamite was for skillers to be able to kill mundane NPCs like a zombie in Varrock sewers for the easy achievement diary. But Jagex unknowingly created a method of PVMing that had never been done before. Poison Dynamite didn't come without drawbacks. Using the player's gear and skill levels to determine the accuracy of the Dynamite meant that if it's being used by a low-level account, it can be a struggle for the Dynamite to actually hit. Each attack uses one Poison Dynamite regardless of it being a successful hit or not, so you need a large amount to get anything done. Poison Dynamite is made up of 2 items. Dynamite, which I really hope doesn't surprise anyone, and Nightshade. Nightshade can be obtained in multiple ways: planting a seed, waiting 5 hours and 20 minutes, and harvesting a stackable version that gives a max yield of 18, or delving into the Scavid Caves and picking up the non-stackable version, world hopping and repeating the process over and over until you reach the world hop limit. Each Poison Dynamite requires 3 Nightshade of either type. That means after waiting 5 hours and 20 minutes, you can only make a maximum of 6 Dynamite if you're lucky. And likewise, you will need to hop to a different world 3 times to collect enough Nightshade in the Scavid Caves for a single Poison Dynamite. So every time I want to deal damage to something, it uses a Poison Dynamite, which takes forever to make. But at the end of the day, it's a worthy sacrifice for what I plan to do with it. The first time I ever saw Poison Dynamite in action, I was initially very disappointed. I was watching an Iron Man skiller attempt to kill a level 21 bear to obtain bear meat for the Druidic ritual quest. After painstakingly gathering the materials required to make the Poison Dynamite, they were ready for the fight, only for them to deal no damage on 9 out of 10 of their attempts. But on their last try, they were successful and were lucky enough to get the 25% poison chance as well. After the longest minute of my life, watching this bear slowly die to poison, the bear fell, but the Iron Man did not receive any loot. That's because, in between the Poison Dynamite dealing the initial damage and the poison kicking in, the bear had healed back up to its full hit points, erasing the player damage that was dealt, meaning the skiller didn't receive the kill credit and all that time spent prepping had gone to waste. This was something I was going to have to keep in mind when I began using the Dynamite myself. The best gear on an account with no combat stats is still not great, because even whilst wearing a Necklace of Anguish, an imbued archer ring, and Arania boots, the hit chance with Dynamite is still very low, so to kill anything, I was going to need a big supply. On top of that, the higher level the enemy I want to kill is, the more difficult this will be. Although I found ways to work around this by making some of the hardest bosses in the game as easy to hit as a level 1 rat. With all that explained, I had to theorycraft for the first major goal on the account, not just killing the King Black Dragon, but killing the King Black Dragon enough times to try and get the 1 in 3,000 pet. If I just rocked up with the Poison Dynamite trying to take down the boss, it obviously wouldn't go very well. So allow me to explain how I was not only able to take down the KBD, but do it 1,000 times. Alongside Chop Chop, I used 3 alt accounts. One would go to Aberrant Spectres to reduce its combat stats down to 1, repot its attack level back to max, then run to the KBD and Elder Maul's special attack to lower its defense whilst only dealing a small amount of damage. This was repeated as many times as was necessary, and finished with a Ralos special attack to get the KBD's defense as close to 0 as possible. This increased Chop Chop's chance to hit with the poison dynamite from 3.14% to 71%, which, if you ask me, is a big deal. Compared to the player's stat regen, which is 1 level per minute, the King Black Dragon regenerates roughly 30 health, as well as any reduced defense levels every minute. It's what allows me to reduce the KBD's defense whilst also not stealing the kill from Chop Chop, as when the damaged hit points fully replenish, it erases this damage from counting, but the lowered defense remains. The downside of this is that after successfully hitting with the poison dynamite, you have to quickly follow up with recoil damage like the Ring of Suffering and the Vengeance spell. This prevents Chop Chop's damage from being erased, which is exactly what happened to that Iron Man skiller trying to kill the bear. Reflected damage like the Ring of Suffering and Vengeance aren't considered real player damage, so they don't affect the kill. As long as I finish killing KBD using only the rebounded damage, it means the only hit that counts was dealt by Chop Chop's dynamite. So after the King Black Dragon tasted a lot of vengeance, it finally dies and the kill goes to Chop Chop. I did this exact method 1,000 times over the course of a couple of months, and used thousands of poison dynamite that had all been painstakingly collected using the two mentioned methods. I did get a dragon pickaxe and lots of KBD heads for my troubles, but sadly, no pet just yet. But I do plan to return to this grind eventually. Moving on to the Corporeal Beast, I've been able to defeat it over 100 times using a similar method, reducing the boss's stats until it is weak and defenseless before killing it easily. If you've ever killed Corp before, you probably know what I'm talking about. That's where the similarities end, however. Once its defense has been reduced, it's ready to be poison dynamited, and the process of killing the Corporeal Beast begins. This time round, to kill the boss, the alt accounts need to die over and over again, intentionally standing underneath it, getting stomped for large damage, and using the Retribution Prayer to hit the boss when they die. This of course gets paired with the Ring of Suffering and Vengeance, but it's very effective due to how easy it is to teleport back to the boss using the Games Necklace. I was also lucky enough to get an Arcane Sigil drop, which is the craziest item I've gotten on my collection log so far, and if you ask me, it was definitely deserved. I'm slowly making my way to the hard combat achievements threshold, and I'm currently at the medium tier with 186 points. Combat achievements are in a funny spot when it comes to this account because they work in mysterious ways. I've been able to kill the King Black Dragon with Protect from Melee activated, and killed the Calphite Queen using only a Virax Flail. The KBD kill involved dealing damage like I would usually with Poison Dynamite, but then heading into the Last Man Standing minigame and having Protect from Melee activated when it dies, which I know sounds insane, but it actually works. Whereas for the Calphite Queen kill, I believe the game checks to see if you damage it with a weapon other than the Virax Flail, so it thought when the Calphite Queen eventually died, I had used the Virax Flail to kill it. In any case, I'm still plenty of points away from the hard tier, but that just means I've got lots more bosses to take on, and I hope to put a good dent into it this year. Bosses like Obor, Bryophyter, and some of the easier wilderness bosses are all on the list. When it comes to raids, I've completed over 100 Chambers of Xeric so far. Unfortunately, I can't do Tob because it requires quests with Prayer XP rewards, and TOA has boss fights in its quest that don't take damage from recoils, so as far as I know, I can't unlock it. Chambers has actually been a good source of combat achievement points, providing me with 76 out of my current 186, with a few still to complete. I'm also not just sat in these raids doing nothing. I've been able to obtain between 10 to 30,000 points each raid, although I do admit the method is a bit unhinged. Aside from earning the points from skilling rooms like Ice Demon and Thieving and preparing potions for the rest of the team, I can also gain points by getting tossed around in the Guardian's room whilst my teammates look on in horror. But the bread and butter for this account comes from catching and eating fish and bats over and over whilst damaging myself with a rock cake, so the food heals me, giving me points. In emergency situations, the trusty Ring of Suffering also lets me recoil scavengers to death to gather planks and secondaries for the potions. It's definitely a different way of raiding, but it gets me points towards rare drops and it's a good time. A big thank you to everyone who lets me tag along for the raids. Despite not being able to complete Beneath Cursed Sands to unlock the Tombs of Amascut raid, I've had success with other quests and currently have 63 of them completed. Heart of Darkness was rather challenging because one part required I keep a friendly NPC alive whilst also precisely positioning enemies on just the right tiles so they damage each other. It took a few attempts, having to rely on a bit of luck, but I got there in the end. In this same quest, you will also take on the Amoxliatl, a beginner-friendly instance boss that I technically should have never been able to complete. That's because one of the boss's attacks heals it, and with this account's restrictions, that's a massive issue. I was able to prevent this attack from occurring by staying in the entrance for the duration of the fight. That left me with the simple task of just killing the boss. Once again, the suffering was perfect, making use of the floor spikes the boss creates to reflect a small but consistent amount of damage. Due to the amount of damage I was taking, I had to do this on a PvP world. I filled a looting bag with diamond necklaces and created phoenix necklaces mid-kill, giving me enough health to finish the boss off. Perilous Moons I feel is worth highlighting, as I spent months after release thinking it wouldn't be possible on this account. It turns out, as long as I'm keeping myself alive and reflecting damage dealt by the moon bosses, they slowly chip away at their own health and die. Even the Blood Moon, which heals itself by dealing damage, doesn't restore its health for some reason, as long as you're not attacking it. Meaning, whilst the kills are rather slow, it's still very much an activity Chop Chop can complete. I completed 1000 medium clues, which took a bit longer than usual due to the fact that there's so many steps I didn't have requirements for. Because of this, I sadly had to abandon over 1400 of them. Fortunately, I was still able to make a profit as well as receiving a nice stack of Master Clue Scrolls. Being the highest tier of Clue Scroll meant there were even more barriers to complete each one, so I had to make good use of clue mechanics to increase the average number of Master Clue steps I could do. This ranged from juggling all 50 clues to retaining an easy-to-complete cryptic clue step that allows me to bypass more difficult ones, waiting 10 minutes for the Ancient Wizard Trio or Cabbage Mage to despawn, which the game considers to be a successful kill, and even blindly digging at hundreds of locations around the game for the hot or cold steps, as I can't complete the quest that gives me the strange device. All of which resulted in 6 Master Clue caskets. I know it doesn't sound too impressive, but I was pleased with the outcome. To the surprise of my clanmates, I also got to fight the Mimic boss, which got me a combat achievement and increased the number of clue scroll boxes I can stack up. I've mentioned before, but trying the same thing with easy and hard clue scrolls is on the to-do list. Looking back at my stats from around 2 years ago, the account has made massive progress across the board. Some skills were trained for specific activities, and others were just done when I needed something to AFK whilst editing these videos. Fishing, hunter, cooking, and herblore were all really useful to help maximize the points I was receiving in the Chambers of Xeric. And I trained agility at the Wilderness Agility course, showing how hard it is to kill this account whilst also making a lot of money. Then did the same thing at Black Chin Chompers to train my hunter, easily tanking all the PKs that attacked me because my hit points were so high. I even got 99 hunter and herblore at the same time whilst in the wilderness. Also a special mention to the time I fought back against PKers and used a skill cape emote to delay vengeance damage, killing my attackers in one shot. It's probably the best thing I've ever done in the wilderness on this account. Training in the wilderness and not dying to PKers is incredibly satisfying, and most activities in the wilderness make me a load of money, so it's both fun and really useful. An account that can ignore PKers attacking it is just great, and making wilderness videos is always a blast. Having 80 Slayer on Chop Chop is very satisfying and a great way to confuse lots of players, but I do have plans to actually train it even higher. Hopefully to one day take on the task-only Slayer bosses like Cerberus, Abyssal Sire, and the Alchemical Hydra. It will definitely be uncharted territory with the potential to obtain more combat achievements on this account, as well as the rare chance at some of the pets. When it comes to talking about skills, I can't really ignore talking about hit points. After spending 500 hours going from level 60 to 75, I wanted to take a well-deserved break from Varrock Museum. And I hope you'll agree that everything I've covered in this video so far has been a lot more interesting than just cleaning rocks. All the post-level 75 experience was gained from random events, the odd quest, or the dark relics from raiding. It's definitely not been a priority, but it's useful to chip away at, as any XP gained is less time cleaning rocks in the future. You can exchange frog tokens for XP lamps, and I've currently got 28 of them so far. I'm planning to keep them all until I hit 98 hit points, because I think it'll be interesting to see how many I can stack up. With all the recent levels I've gained, I'm now able to join the 1500 total level worlds, and I'm currently making my way towards the next tier, which are the 1750 worlds, only possible on this account thanks to sailing. You should know by now Chop Chop has no issues surviving PKs in the wilderness, but these worlds are always a useful option to have. In future, to continue working on the Chambers of Xeric, I'll attempt to do 1+1 raids where I max out Chop Chop's points as much as possible before completing the rest of the raid with my main account. It's been a while since I've done proper solos, but it would be a nice challenge to relearn and optimize with a focus on Chop Chop. I'm always on the lookout for updates to the game that buff Chop Chop or allow me to complete content I'd previously been unable to do. In a game that gets updated constantly, anything could be possible. A quick FAQ, just in case you need more context. Will I get 99 hit points? Yes, but not right now, because it requires 5,000 hours of licking rocks. How do I cast Vengeance? Well, I use alt accounts and the Venge Other spell to do that. How did I train Slayer? There's a full video explaining it, but using alt accounts to damage NPCs, then Chop Chop hits them with a weapon that deals 0 damage and gets half the Slayer XP. Am I okay? Yes, thanks for asking. Playing this quirky account has been a unique experience. I enjoy sharing Chop Chop with all of you watching, and it's had me doing content I've never touched before. If you have any more questions, I'd be happy to answer them in the comments. In the future, you can look forward to seeing Chop Chop taking on as many bosses as he can, filling out the collection log as much as possible, and doing lots of the combat tasks. I'm excited to see how far this account can go, and find out what can and can't be done. There's still a long road ahead for Chop Chop, but you're welcome to join and see what crazy things this account can accomplish. I knew when making this video it was going to be on the longer side, but condensing 5,600 hours of playtime into one single video, it was never going to be short. I hope this was at least a little bit interesting to watch, and that even those who've been watching my channel from the start got to learn a bit more about Chop Chop and why I enjoy this account so much. See you next time, and subscribe for more Chop Chop.